Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. I'm your host, Marguerite Crespillo, and I started this podcast simply dedicated to calling people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now, let's dive into the world of real estate. Hey, it's Marguerite. And guess what? It's time for Real Estate Real World. And we get to talk to all kinds of cool people. I love the ones that have been around for a while, the ones that are newer, the ones that are figuring stuff out. And this gal, I have to tell you, is pretty inventive. I'm super impressed. We're going to tell her story here in a minute. But let me tell you a little bit about Melissa. Melissa Horne has been selling general real estate in Brevard County, Florida since 2019. She's currently a licensed broker associate with RE/MAX Elite, where she works with a collection of dedicated professionals. She has successfully told the story of many homes of Brevard County, which is why it's no surprise she's a top producing agent year after year. Melissa spent a lifetime in service. Originally from New York, Melissa spent many years in hospitality and a decade managing and promoting New York City's world-famous Comedy Cellar. Upon the birth of her first child, she made the decision to go back to school and graduated valedictorian of CUNY Staten Island in 2011. Melissa began as a realtor and marketing director of a top producing team in New York in 2015 before she made the move to Florida, where she continued her real estate career. She's a digital marketing specialist and has excelled in sales and marketing across multiple counties. And welcome to the show. I can't wait to talk to you.
Hi.
So I have to tell you something that I just saw when I was going through that bio again. My husband is a stand-up comedian.
Awesome. I am a comedy brat.
Oh my gosh.
I worked in that building longer than I've ever lived in one house. So when I go home to New York, that's where I go home to. Like that, I go right back to the cellar.
That's so crazy because he always loved comedy. But life happens and comedy doesn't pay very well. So he, children and all that kind of stuff, he got into the mortgage business. And then I've been with EXP, I think 9 years. So we were about a year in and we used to own a big brokerage. We had 120 agents and we shut that down. It was too much work. And we joined EXP Realty. And when we did that, about a year in, we were able to retire him. And so he got to retire from the mortgage and real estate business. And he's been doing comedy ever since, and he loves it.
Fantastic.
He's doing a big show next week here locally. He also has Parkinson's disease. So he's doing a show to raise charity for Parkinson's disease. So it's funny. I mean, I go to some of his shows, but he always makes the joke that he's not my favorite comedian. I go, well, that's because I've heard your routine so many times. It's not, anything new to me, but it's still fun to see. Yeah. You're like, you got to write some new material, man.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, that is so true because all of us waitresses and bartenders, managers, everybody, we could do verbatim in the corners when they were on stage, their entire set, and they would get so mad. I think it was David Tell once got on stage and was like, if any of us got sick and just didn't show up, one of the waitresses could come up here and do our whole set for us. We're like, we probably can't deliver it like you, but sure could, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to tell my husband to listen to this one for sure. He's gonna crack up. And you have a great accent, by the way. I love your accent. You probably think I have an accent, but you have a great accent.
Yeah.
It's kind of a combination in New York and Florida, isn't it?
It's getting there. It's pretty atrocious, like hard New York still. I work really hard on enunciation so I don't sound like an alien when I'm talking to people here.
No, I love it. It's always fun to hear people's accents, especially in New York, because I probably must have been a New Yorker or something in my past life because I'm so I'm half Italian, so that might have something to do with it. But I'm just so blunt and to the point. And so I love actually talking to New Yorkers because they don't mess around. They're like,
Yeah.
it
No,
is
there's
what
no
it is,
filter. It
I
has
have
to be.
a friend, Chris Gercio, and when I get him on the phone and he's got that great, like, kind of raspy voice.
Oh,
And
I bet he's
I
great.
laugh the whole time he's talking. He goes, "Why are you laughing at me?" I go, "It's not you, it's your accent. I can't not laugh at you." So, anyways, so how did you go from Comedy Cellar to real estate agent? Although it's probably not that far of a jump.
So it's not, right? Because it's providing excellent service to what you didn't even know was coming your way, right? So I got pregnant at 29 and I could not run a New York City nightclub or bartend or waitress because I had three
Yeah,
hats. I would bartend, I waitress, and I was a manager. I could not be an effective mother if I got home at 5:30 in the morning.
so
So
true.
I had to figure out something. And it's like the biggest blessing that I ever had. I say all the time, Nick saved my life because I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know what I wanted. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know that I was academically smart, right? Like I know now all the skills I got from those years, nuances of character, how people react, how they move, what does body language mean? All those skills that we spend so much time learning as a real estate agent, from like refining especially, but when you come from an industry that you're forward facing all the time with people and you need to understand them to help them, that is like inherently what we do as real estate agents. So but it was a little bit of time before I figured out Comedy Cellar real estate agent. I actually wanted to go to law school, so I went back to college as an adult at 30 with a 1-year-old baby. And I was a business major and a marketing. I was a double major, marketing and business, and I wanted to go to law school. Except at 35 years old, $300,000 in debt doesn't sound like a really good idea. And I was not getting the score I needed on an LSAT for a full scholarship. And I was exhausted. I was now,
Yeah.
mom, work. I was still working in the industry only on the weekends because I was in school all week, raising my son. I got to spend time with him. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
anyway, when I realized law school wasn't going to happen, I said, what am I going to do? I'm interested in wealth building. I'm interested in contracts. I'm interested in helping people. I'm not interested in a finance degree, not even a little bit.
I
So,
don't blame you.
and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get my real estate license and see. And of course, everyone thinks it's easy. So I
Oh, of
thought,
course. All you do is put a sign in the yard, right?
yeah. No, there's a 75-hour course, and I just got to find people. And it wasn't. I did nothing, absolutely nothing for the first year of my career. Nothing. I got this great split with this great company that trained me on nothing. So finally, I met a gentleman who decided I had talent that I didn't even know I had at that point, and he prospected me with his FISBOs until I agreed
Wow.
to go work on his team. And
Wow.
I still talk to him, and he's still my first and best mentor. Well, they're, as you develop, he's my first and favorite mentor.
There you go.
And he really made me see that I was talented. And that's when the mindset journey started for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's how I got here.
The funny thing is that I've always said that being in the food service or service industry, like being a waitress or food server or something along those lines, is like the best sales training on the planet. I was a cocktail waitress for 5 years before I got into real estate. And funny thing is, I got my real estate license at 30 years old. So, a lot of similarities there, but the learning how to handle people when you're serving them food or when they've been drinking or all these, because real estate can be a pretty emotional adventure for many. So that to me is like the best sales training ever out there. So that's really cool that you did that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I said it all the time. Max, excuse me one second.
You got your puppy dog.
He's got my puppy dog, and he's eating the wire that's
Oh.
attached to my standing desk. Come here, you're going to get electrocuted, and that'll be a real show around here. So fireworks coming out from under the desk. What's happening, Melissa? So anyway, what I said when I first started gaining momentum and getting really like, I'm a real estate agent, like I'm doing it. I'm becoming more successful and learning more, I was like, I always thought the worst thing in the whole world is a drunk person at 5 a.m. trying to convince them they needed to give you their keys and to stop talking to their boyfriend that way because they were going to have a problem with it tomorrow or whatever it is. I was wrong. Real estate, that is definitely the prelude to a deal that has, craziness coming out of it. Learning how to navigate that roller coaster of emotion and have people still keep logic, right? Because people buy off emotion, not logic, but this is a business deal. And we are trusted navigators to make sure they make good, sound financial decisions for their place. And yeah, if it wasn't for that drunk lady at 5 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't be the best agent that I am now.
Funny story. When I think I'd been maybe a year, maybe 2 years in real estate. I hadn't been very long. I've been 31 years at it now, but I'll never forget. We had some really good friends, and he was in the Navy, I think, and she was working. Anyway, we're in contract doing a VA loan. Literally the night before we're supposed to go sign the paperwork, he calls me at like 1 a.m, right? And I mean, this was before cell phone. So this is like when your house phone rang, it was an emergency, right?
Right.
Called me at like 1 o'clock in the morning. He's like, we're not buying the house and we're getting a divorce. And I'm like, hold on, Keith. And so I'm just like sitting there. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to figure out. And I said, well, Keith, you know what? I'm sure there's a lot going on right now. I said, but tell you what, why don't you just get some sleep? And tomorrow we'll talk about it. And if you still feel the same way, I'll send the cancellation instructions over. Well, of course, the next day they were fine. They signed and they bought the house and they're still married to this day. But the funny thing is that was the lesson that taught me to give everything 24 hours. Like when people flip out and they don't, because they're so irrational and there's so much, it's so emotional, so much going on. I just like, even if they call and say, cancel right now, send me the cancellation instructions. I'll be okay. I'm not away. I'm not near my computer. I'll get them sent over to you first thing tomorrow. And almost always by the next day, they're like, we're good. We'll move forward. Right.
And I agree with you. That is such a strong lesson. And every agent has to learn it on their own. And I remember my broker here at Remax, because I'm a people pleaser. So I'm like, I got to answer the phone. I have to get back to that. I have to figure this out. And she's like, Melissa, you are running around ragged because you are not giving anything time to season. If you just let it sit, even for like a half an hour, let it sit. 9 out of 10 times, they're going to figure it out. And I started doing, I'd be like, okay, don't answer the text, the call or anything for an hour. I started with like an hour and then it went to the next day. But it was a hard lesson for me to learn because I thought I wasn't providing prompt service. And the second you learn it, it's like, oh, yes, everybody needs time to season because it's, who knows what happened. Maybe they just got in a fight like right then, but obviously it was over in the morning and hopefully you got some sleep that night too.
Yeah. It's like it always helps to get a good night's sleep. And, things always seem to be a little bit better in the morning when you've gotten some sleep. So since then, you said you've started to really learn how to be more, let's see, that's not the right word. I want to say be more authentic, but you've learned more to kind of step into your own. I guess that's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
To step into who you are and be more comfortable in your skin, which I think is a hard lesson to learn when you're a newer agent and when you're trying to juggle and balance everything. Like you said, you're trying to be everything to everybody. On top of raising, how old is your son now?
I have 2. One is 20 and one is 8.
Oh, wow. You got a big age gap. Mine are going to be 29 and 30. So mine are, I raised my kids in real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nick, they got 2 different moms. My older one is Nick and he.
You mean 2 different dads?
Well, no, they have 2 different dads and 2 different moms. But being that I was a different person at the time.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Nick watched me grow, right? Donnie, here's a perfect example. Nick saw me go from waitressing to college, to graduating, to starting my career, working my way up the career. Nick didn't feel how much we struggled financially.
Right.
I hope, like, he doesn't say that he does, but he'll say little things sometimes like, I wasn't spoiled like Donnie's spoiled, and then you
That
have
happens no matter what with
yeah.
kids.
And then Donnie's like in the mirror with affirmations in the morning. Believe in yourself. I'm the best. I love me. so, so Nick is going to be working out trauma for the next decade, and Donnie's going to be a CEO when he's 18.
Well, I always say if your kids don't end up in therapy, you didn't do a good job, So
Right.
my kids are in therapy, so apparently I did a good job.
You did a great job. No,
Oh
but
my
it's
goodness.
definitely the gap has really allows me to see how I came into my authentic self.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about just now, how you have to give everybody time to season. That's part of there's so many little nuances to learning this also, right? Like everybody's experience is their own.
Yeah.
Everybody's they're I came in and I want to help, right? So, and this is where I think my success changed also. I'm very good at connecting with people, and that comes from who I am. I like people, I love people, I like to talk, but learning to ask the right questions. And as a real estate agent, they don't need me to pick a house for them. And
Right.
and I had to learn to take my opinion out of their shopping, right?
100%.
And that's I might think it's a prettier house, but if it fits their needs, then my job is to make sure that they're thinking of all the questions they don't know that they have to ask, and making sure that the house is sound and that they know what expectations to sorry, that's
okay.
what expectations they should have based on the condition of the home moving forward, to make sure they know that we are all humans and not infallible, and things are going to break, and we can only judge at the best of our ability. But making sure that they have all the information, make the best decision for them. And it is not my experience, but I am an integral part of making the experience good for them in the future, right? And
yeah, that's so impactful. And the funny thing is that literally today, this won't air today, but it'll air in the next couple weeks. I'm actually launching my client conversation checklist that I created, 30 years ago. And I'm putting that out as a digital product right now, because I think it's so important that we have those conversations with clients up front and help them understand what's going to happen and what the process is like, instead of going in there and talking about me, and how great I am and why you should work with me and why I work for the best broker or whatever the conversation is. None of that matters. They really need to be educated and informed on what that process is going to look like so that they can make the best decision for them. Because where you want to live, I might not like that area at all, and vice versa, right? So I think that that's pretty amazing that you've learned that so, relatively early in your career, because that is, to me, probably the best thing that you can do. And even, with this whole lawsuit stuff we ended up with last year, right, to the real estate industry last August, agents were like losing their mind over it. And I'm like, to me, that was like the best thing that ever happened, because now it's requiring us to sit down with them up front, have a conversation where historically agents many times would just answer the phone, they'd rush out and show a home, and they're not educating buyers. They don't do that with sellers, but they've always done it with buyers. So I think it was awesome. I mean, I don't love that it was a lawsuit, but I love the fact that, it's pushing our industry to have those educational conversations up front. And it sounds like you've been doing that.
yeah, no, and I think it's huge. Like I just had a new buyer call this morning, for example, and they called me because they connected with somebody. I didn't ask from where, and I'm not that agent. Like my first question is, if you already signed an agreement with an agent, because then you need to have a conversation with that agent if you want to move on or whatever. Like, I'm not here to take business from somebody, but I will educate you. the best as possible. I'm like, no, we haven't signed anything. We saw your website. We're supposed to come into town tomorrow. And I actually had an appointment cancel in the afternoon, so I was able to put them in. I was like, well, did the other agent at least introduce you to what the buyer broker agreement is and what that means? And they're like, yeah, he sent it to me. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to rehash everything you talked about. I'm going to explain to you how I work my business and how it benefits you. I don't have to get into it all now, but I just said, I think everybody has the right to choose when they want to work with an agent. I can't walk in a house without this agreement, but if I'm not your cup of tea at the end of the day, you're not hurting my feelings. I'm not going to get you to where you want to be if you don't like me. So, you know, that's the first step. So, and what's most important to me for all my clients is what's important to you. So if you understand the BBA, you're comfortable signing it, let's talk about what is most important to you. And they're like, so, you know, not one agent we called even asked us what's most important to me. And I just was floored. I'm like, that's just, we are, and I tell this to new agents when I meet them, if you are in this for the money, you are never going to make any. If you do this because you truly want to help somebody and you really care about having the skills to be an expert to guide somebody, the money is limitless and there is enough to go around for everybody in your marketplace. So just be you and understand that you are not them. You are not buying the house. You are not the one selling the house. If you don't understand what is most important to that person you are serving, you are not going to be able to execute what they need, period.
100%. Yeah. So how did you move towards the direction of mindset? Because it sounds like you've come a long way in the time that you've been doing this. And it sounds like a lot of it has to do with, you know, that record that you're playing in your head and what that looks like. How did you move into that arena and how has that impacted your career?
Huge. And it's always running like that. You know, I still, truth be told, still ride the roller coaster, right? And then
we all crazy monkey in your head, right?
Yeah. And learning to tame that monkey is really something. I started probably before real estate. Because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was growing up. And it opens my eyes to start hearing what the opportunities were to understand who you are. You can't succeed and grow in any career or as a mom, a human, a friend, a daughter, whatever, unless you learn to like yourself. So once I started liking myself a little and started recognizing accomplishments, like the first one was that I'm smart. I got an A. Like I got an A in college at 30 years old. Who knew? And when you start allowing and receiving people's compliments about yourself, then you've got to believe it, right? Well, for me, that's how it worked anyway. And then that little bit of belief grows and you want more. I want to be better. I want to be smart. I like being smart. I like that I can do this. That's the biggest thing. Once you tell yourself I can do it, you could do anything, like absolutely anything. So that little taste just kept growing. And in the and that's probably from 2011. So before real estate. But once I got into real estate and I was introduced to, you know, all these different coaching, like Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale, and then I read Napoleon Hill's Think and Get Rich. Well, first of all,
have you gotten his book, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill?
I have that. Oh my God, I have. And then I started reading like those kind of books. Like I was actually an English major, like business and marketing. And then I changed to English and I wanted to do creative writing. So I started, I really like nonfiction. All my favorites are right here, like The Go-Giver, The Magic of Thinking Big, A Happy Pocket Full of Money. Like once
I interviewed Bob Berg on my podcast.
Really?
That wrote The Go-Giver. Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, he was great. Yeah. That was actually a eye-opening moment for me on my podcast because I made this like dream list of people I wanted to interview, and he was on the list. And I got an email, just a regular marketing email from him, from whatever list I was on of his. And I literally responded and I said, "Hey, I have this podcast. Would you be open to being a guest?" And he responded and said, "Yes, I would love to." I was like, "Is that really from him?" Like, you know. And the funny thing is not only did I interview him, but he co-wrote. If you look at the book, he co-wrote it with a guy named John David Mann.
Mm-hmm.
And John David Mann reached out to me and asked if he could be on my podcast. I'm like, sure. I had him on the podcast a couple times because he ghost writes books and he helped write that book. And he actually is the one who pushed me and motivated me to write my book called The 100 Things I Love About You. So anyway, that was down a rabbit hole, but I love Bob Berg. That's one of my favorite interviews. It's on my podcast. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to watch that tonight. That's so awesome. How incredible. But yes, like I can only imagine the feeling that you had being in front of him, because these ideas from these, and so many of the messages, right, depending on what content, like what you're reading about, they all have the same underlying messages, but it's
100%.
just one paragraph in one book that speaks to you in a different way will change your whole life in like 30 seconds. Because now it clicks. Now you got it. And that's, as I was discovering these books, it started opening up my mind more. And then I was like, you know what? I need to change how I think. And then I started noticing how other people talk to each other. And I'm like, oh, they don't even know they're talking to each other. But then in my house, how my little one talks to my big one, how my ex-husband and I talk to each other in front of them. Like, why? And it is so true. I said, I'm the only one who can, I have to change me. If I don't change, I can't change them. So I really spent time. It's really hard to look in the mirror and say, I love you to yourself every day. And I did it. I sat there and I was like, okay, Melissa, you are in charge of the circus here. And if you want them to change, you need to start here. So what can I do? Yeah. What can I do to make the only thing I could try to improve about this earth are those two humans in my house. So if I can start there and they can make, and it'll trickle out change, and then maybe somebody in Kentucky is going to benefit because I said I love you in the mirror. That's what I'm hoping. And it's a huge, it's never ending. So just
it's so fascinating to me because I've always said, you work on you and everything comes together. It's on my Facebook. It's on everything. And I wish people saw more of that, because you're right. You can do and be anything you want, but it starts up here. It starts in what's going on in your head. And it's a hard thing, because I have boys as well. My boys are older now, but helping my boys understand that a little bit, and that you have the potential and the power to go be and do anything you want. They're like, oh, Mom, stop saying it. They get all like, because I've said that kind of stuff for years. And they're like, they all poo-poo me. And then all of a sudden now, so just so you know, your son's 20. So he's in that crazy stage. But now that they're like 29 and 30, now they're starting to get it. Now they're starting to be like, oh, yeah. Or they'll say things to me that I said to them a million times. I'm like, oh, that sounds so familiar. Where have you heard that before? They're like, whatever, Mom.
Yeah, well, they were listening. So
they are hearing more than you think they are, just so you know.
Yes. And it's that, when you're greeted with the blank stares of about crazy ladies saying the foo-foo stuff again, but that they're hearing it and they're receiving it is huge. And I believe that they are. And I see a lot with Nick. Donnie, well, he's already doing more affirmations than me every morning, but Nicholas, he listens to it, because I do when I'm making coffee, because I still have to get the little one ready for school and the big one's leaving for work. I play either a book or a morning meditation that's like meant for while you're doing your morning routine or something. And when I don't play them, he's grumpy when he's leaving. When I do play them, he's always like, I love you, Ma. I'll see you later. Like, you're hearing it. It's going in there. I got you.
I love that. I love that. Well, what's next for you as we wrap up today? Like what are you hoping to do in the next few years? I mean, now you got one son on his way out, probably not for a bit yet, but and one that's growing up. What are you wanting to do for you? What are some things you're excited about?
I would love to move into multifamily investments. That's something that I'm learning how to underwrite a deal right now. So I'm very cautious as my risk taking. Like the residential real estate, I'm very confident that I can continue to help families. But for Melissa's investments, I'd like to move into multifamily syndication deals. I would love to get a couple of agents. I'm a solo agent. I don't want a big team. I thought I did, but I'd like to really be influential in somebody else growing their career. And when I say like a little, I mean like one or two people, that's it. and be able to really, I feel like in order to be an effective leader, I need to not be so concentrated on my own production. And right now I'm still concentrated on my own production. So I hope in the next couple of years, I can grow some passive income so that I can be influential in somebody else's life so I could pass on everything that I learned. So
I love that.
that's it. That's all I want. I just want comfort, ease, a beautiful family, and to give knowledge to somebody else.
Well, you know what? It has been a true joy. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. So next time, if you ever come out to California, you'll have to come hang out with me. But if I
I
get
would
to the
love
Florida,
it.
I'll be in Miami for EXP conference in October. But how far are you from Miami?
Like 3 hours, but I can always use a mommy Miami trip. Hit me up.
I will for sure. I will for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa. I'm so glad you reached out, and it's such a joy talking to you. I'm excited for your future.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I'd love to continue connecting with you and learning from you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us again on Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the cool people. Be sure to share on social media. And if you feel so inclined, go give us a review. And by the way, keep your eyes peeled for my client conversation checklists that are dropping this week. And if you have any questions about that, we can get you the link here ASAP. Thank you again for joining us, and go out and shine bright. Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in the real estate industry and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes, and while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others to find our podcast for show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry. Also, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email to get early advance notice of upcoming podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and go out there and be a part of the elite masterclass and raising the bar on the real estate industry.